Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, a deep dive look into how the Niners erased the largest deficit in NFC Championship game history since the Super Bowl merger, coming back from 17 points at halftime to stun and take down the Detroit Lions to make it to Super Bowl 58, where a rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs awaits. And speaking of the Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers Report, myself, will be live from Las Vegas. What you can expect here on the channel: live shows from Super Bowl Radio Row, player and coach interviews on the San Francisco sideline, as well as from the Kansas City point of view. We're going to do shows with other content creators and other people who cover this football team. So make sure you subscribe. Looking to do a meet and greet at some point on the Strip in Las Vegas. And if you're going, please let me know. Give me a follow on X at Chase_Senior. Give me a follow on Instagram. It's the same handle at Chase_Senior. Or shoot me an email, chase@chatsports.com. What I'm thinking, maybe Thursday night, we'll release some details in the days leading up to our Super Bowl trip. I'll let everybody know where I'm going to be, and then we can do a meet and greet. We can hang out. We can take down some drinks, and I can meet some of the true, real ones who support the show. So obviously, what a comeback against the Detroit Lions, and a deep dive look into how San Francisco was able to mount that comeback and make it to the Super Bowl. I thought that Brock Purdy was tremendous in that second half, and like he was against Green Bay when he went 6 of 7 on that final drive, he was clutch again. His numbers in the second half were nearly perfect, and this is what the great quarterbacks do. When the lights are the brightest, on the biggest of stages, when the pressure is on, how are you going to perform? Brock Purdy performed in beautiful fashion. 13 of 16 after recess, 174 yards, a touchdown, a passer rating of 132.8. And how about his ability to make plays with his legs, which I thought really deflated the Detroit Lions and gave some momentum and juice to San Francisco. And again, he was able to do this in the NFC Championship game, down by 17 points, backs against the wall. Niner fans were nervous. San Francisco really didn't have a lot of confidence in that sideline because they couldn't get anything going on either side of the football. And this comes after a clutch, big boy, big cock Brock game-winning drive against Green Bay in the divisional round. And the Niners, in the second half of the last 2 games, have had a combined 10 offensive drives. Led by Brock Purdy, San Francisco has been extremely efficient. And this obviously has to do with Kyle Shanahan putting him and the offense in a position to succeed. The Niners have scored on 8 of those 10 second-half drives. Mitch Wishnowsky not getting a lot of work at punter, and that's a beautiful thing. If you love that the Purdy haters are having to eat their words, Ryan Clark of ESPN already had to issue an apology on Monday, which was hilarious. Then I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video if you support Brock Purdy. Steve Wilks and his second half adjustments, they were great. And it's so funny during our watch party, in which we had well over 600,000 people join us at half. People were saying, fire Kyle Shanahan, fire Steve Wilks. And I told everybody, look, Kyle Shanahan overcame the demons of being able to come back from a large deficit against Green Bay. And Steve Wilks all year has made some great second half adjustments. That's exactly what he did against Detroit. In the first half, the Lions ran for 148 yards, 7 yards per carry. They jumped out to that 24-7 advantage. In the second half, the Niners were so much better against the run. They forced that turnover with Tashaun Gipson punching the football out from Jahmyr Gibbs. That's something that they talked about, in which they saw on tape. And San Francisco bottled up Detroit on the ground. They only gave up 8 carries for 34 yards. That put the ball in the hands of Jared Goff. And as I said in the lead up to the game, I want the Lions to have to put the ball in the hands of Goff, because I don't think that he can consistently beat this Niners defense through the air. And the 49ers after halftime, thanks to the defensive turnaround and thanks to the offense getting it together, scored 27 straight points. Here's what veteran safety Tashaun Gipson had to say about Steve Wilks making some changes. He said, Steve Wilks changed up the game plan. He made second half adjustments, and those things just took us to victory, man. So shout out to Coach Wilks with those halftime adjustments, we were able to come out here, start making plays, start teeing off, and being more physical. And that's something that really stood out to me. I thought in the second half, when the Niners got the ball offensively, there was that big play to Debo. And the Niners started to operate with some offensive tempo. Now, they had to settle for 3 there, but Debo got people fired up. And then defensively, there was less thinking, less second guessing, and more attacking. And the Niners defense really started to get after it, and we saw that athleticism really on display, as Tashaun Gipson talked about. Now, the 49ers are going to Super Bowl 58, and if you want to celebrate an NFC title, get your NFC Champs gear right now. Chatsports.com/49ers NFC Champs. You can get shirts, you can get hoodies, you can get hats, all types of different styles, all available right now at the link at the bottom of your screen. Really good deals available too, but make sure you plug in that link so that Fanatics knows that Chat Sports sent you. And then number 3, in a game of this magnitude, you are needing your dogs, your marquee players, to show up, show out, ball out, and come to play. And that's what it happened for San Francisco. Their highly paid players and their superstar guys ended up having a ball. And I thought defensively it was led by Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, who we'll also talk about. Going into the game, because Jared Goff is not the same quarterback under duress as he is in a clean pocket, I thought it was really important for Nick Bosa to have a big game. And he was able to do that. First 8 playoff games of his career, he had 8 sacks. And the last 4 games, he had 0 sacks. Well, against the Lions, he was the Niners' highest graded defender. He had 8 pressures, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles, and 3 run stops. And Jared Goff, when Steve Wilks put the pressure on him, was not good. He floundered. Had a couple of drops, but again, that's what happens when the momentum of a game changes. That's what happens when you ratchet up the pressure. Goff against pressure, 3 of 13, 26 yards, sacked twice with a rating of 39.6. And then you go to the trench play on the offensive side of the football. Detroit's defensive line is very good. And how about the performance for Trent Williams? He gave up 0 pressures against the Lions, and he has just allowed 4 pressures in his last 7 games. That's a future Hall of Famer right there, and one of the best left tackles of all time. This passing attack for Detroit, with Jared Goff playing confidently, a lot of really good weapons at wide receiver, tight end, and running back, great offensive scheme, led by Ben Johnson, great play caller. They can really draw up a lot of creative plays, and they can get you searching for answers and whiffing on that back end. Well, you're paying a lot of money to Jarvarius Ward as well. He gave up in 43 coverage snaps, 1 catch, 7 yards allowed, no touchdowns, and a Pro Football Focus coverage grade of 75.6. What's the theme here? All of these individuals, dogs, but all these individuals, high-level investments for this organization. Christian McCaffrey, like he was against Green Bay, great once again. 4 touchdowns in 2 playoff games for CMC as he continues to put together one of the best non-quarterback seasons that we've ever seen. And this year in the NFL, he's been one of the best overall players in the sport. 20 carries, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Lions. Deebo Samuel, after all that trash talk with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who called him a running back number 1, waved goodbye to Niner fans in the second quarter, and then blindsided Deebo Samuel on a blindside block after the Brock Purdy interception. What did Deebo do? Had a playoff career high, 8 catches for 89 yards, didn't look like a running back, looked like a dynamic player, and I tweeted that out, that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was waving at Niner fans in the second quarter. It wasn't going to age well. Deebo actually gave me a quote tweet on X, and that thing blew up for a few million views. Thank you, Deebo. Whoa. But his confidence, how he plays, his swagger, his physicality, it rubs off on his teammates. And how about some of the plays that he made after the catch and being able to move the chains? Just a special, dynamic player. That's why he's the X factor of this Niners offense. And then you look at Fred Warner. His Pro Football Focus grade was tremendous. He had one of the best games of his playoff career. And his level-headed confidence and nature, I think, helped keep this defense together. Nick Bosa even said, look, we just got to get a couple of stops. He said this at halftime with a heating pad on his back. We're getting close. We can make some adjustments. That's what happens when you have premium players. And when they're leaders, too, you can come out of a rut and you can pull off a comeback of this nature, playoff career high in tackles for Fred Warner of 13. All in all, a championship caliber, mentally tough, resilient, confidence-building win for the San Francisco 49ers. And I love the identity of this team going into the Super Bowl matchup against Kansas City, where it's going to take a three-phase effort for San Francisco. If you're pumped up about this Super Bowl and that the Niners are going to Vegas, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and as always, thanks for watching the show.